from the MCPLive.tv studios, located in downtown Conroe, it's the Conroe Art League, live.
Hello and welcome to Cal Live, the show that introduces to you the many talented artists of the Conroe Art League and to the beautiful art that they create. My name is Ken Roy. I'm the host today for Cal Live, as well as the president of the Conroe Art League. Today, our guest artist is the wonderful Kathy Fediw. Did I get that right?
You did.
I did
Thank
get
you,
it right.
Ken.
And Kathy is been at least since I've been with the Art League. You've been a steady present doing some things, and we're going to talk about that. But first, I always realize this when we do these interviews. I know nothing about you personally. Well, maybe one thing, but really nothing about you personally. And I'm going to assume that a lot of people in the audience don't know a lot about you personally. So if you would, Kathy, just give us some of your background, where you're from.
Sure.
Where you've been, how'd you get to Conroe, family, if you want to talk about that. So a little bit of background.
Okay, great. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I like to say that I got to Texas as quick as I could.
As you could, yes.
Moved here about 21 years ago. Lived in San Antonio for a couple of years. Loved San Antonio, and met my now husband while I was living there, and he was living in Houston, and we found that we actually were living in the same town for a long time back in Pittsburgh and just never met.
So he's from Pittsburgh as well?
Yeah, he's from Pennsylvania. So my former boss and his wife played matchmaker. They had met him playing golf and decided they have so much in common, they would be great. So they got us together. And here we are. We just celebrated our 19th anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. We live in the north end of the Woodlands, so we're just about 15, 20 minutes from Conroe. So I'm here quite frequently, either with things going on at the gallery or just enjoying beautiful downtown Conroe.
That's right. Beautiful, historic downtown Conroe.
I really like this town.
Yeah. And so Pittsburgh, I'm going to say two things: Steelers, obviously, and then Andy Warhol. So either one of those growing up, a fan of, or not particularly?
Well, I think if you're growing up in Pittsburgh, you have to be a fan of the Steelers
You
and the
wouldn't admit
Pirates.
it if you weren't, yeah.
That's right. You don't talk about it if you're not. But I was also a fan of Andy Warhol, especially once they built his museum. And what I found very interesting was seeing how his style changed over the years. He's best known for his pop art, the tomato soup can, things like that.
Yeah.
But as he progressed, he went into abstract art and did some really beautiful abstract pieces.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know he was a designer, I think, like fashion designer or graphic designer for fashion. A lot of, I guess that's how he put food on the table when he first moved to New York. But,
Probably.
And then when did you start making art? In Pittsburgh?
I started when I was a kid. When I was a child, I just always enjoyed drawing. And I can remember getting a John Nagy drawing kit. That was kind of the Bob Ross version for kids.
I don't recall that name, but okay, John Nagy.
It was very popular back then, and I loved it. I loved doing art in school, and my mother would take me to our church once a month where a group of ladies would get together and paint. And I really had fun doing that, even though I was probably the only kid there. It was just a lot of fun to do that and to have some time with my mom as well.
So were you the type of student in elementary school, middle school, high school, when something had to be done art-wise, Kathy will do it?
Sometimes, not that often really.
Yeah.
Because I also started getting interested in science at the same time.
Yeah.
And once I graduated from high school, I went to college. And after my first semester, I knew I wanted to major in horticulture.
Yes.
So that's
what
the
you
world
did.
of plants. So I have a degree in horticulture, 4-year degree, and I had a 40-year career in horticulture.
40 years, and
40 years.
I know a little bit about that career. So tell us more.
I started out in management, managed several of the largest horticulture companies in the country, and I was always in interior plantscaping. So you see plants in office buildings,
Right.
shopping malls. There are companies who take care of those plants.
Yes.
So I worked for those companies, and then when I moved to Houston, I started my own consulting company.
Uh-huh.
And so I would go around and do workshops, teach their employees how to take care of the plants better, speak at conferences. I wrote for trade journals for probably 30 years as a columnist. And I also started publishing my own online trade journal 10 years
Yes.
ago as part of that business, as part of the consulting business.
And books? Have you
And
written?
books,
And books?
I wrote a number of training manuals that are still being used today. And I wrote 2 books that are available on Amazon
Really?
on indoor plant care. Yes.
And
Yes.
do you have the names right on the tip of your tongue? Or
Oh,
if there was some time long ago, I know that you could.
yes. One is a paperback called Green Plant Care Tips for Techs, and I think the other is Interior Plantscape Manual,
Okay. So if you're interested,
Amazon.
go to Amazon, look for Kathy Fedyw's books, and they'll answer all your questions on horticulture. But I know of what you speak because I worked in an office building in Chicago, and a lot of plants, and in the lobby part, and I would see those going up the escalator. I would see some with the big watering cans, watering the plants all the time. And I always thought, which was a shock, well, obviously they're fake, they're artificial. Why would you have a live plant in a building? Well, they took care of them.
That's right.
And did have the
That's
live
right.
plants in the building. Going to college, you studied horticulture. That became your way to make a living. Were you doing art on the side at the same time, or did that come? You're nodding yes, I'm guessing so. Or did it come at near retirement or at retirement?
It came and went.
Yeah.
So I would paint for a number of years. In my 20s, I took watercolor painting lessons. And then life changes. Sometimes you have to pull back a little, and then I would get back into it again. So off and on over the years. And then about 10 years ago, my husband and I started talking about what do we want to do when we retire? Yeah, how do we want to spend our time? Do we want to continue living in the woodlands? Things like that. And I thought, I really enjoy painting. I would like to paint more. And I thought, well, I work for myself. My schedule's flexible.
Yes.
I should start taking lessons now. And so I did. And I took pastel lessons for a couple of years, learned how to paint with pastels. And then I found a really good art teacher, Marty Hatcher, who lives close by, and started taking oil painting lessons from her. And took lessons from her for about 6 or 8 years. And really learned a lot from her. She was a great mentor to me. And
Yes.
we're still good friends.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
And so Marty was up at probably the top or one of the top 3, or were there others that you took classes from? Anyone else, or
I
really
would
just
take-
self-taught?
I would take lessons or do workshops with other artists over the years, primarily to learn a new technique,
Sure.
to see how they painted, sometimes to explore other medias. But Marty was a big part of my painting education, if you will.
And when you were learning with Marty, and did you have a particular style? Was it realism, naturalism, abstract,
I was painting Impressionism,
impressionism?
so
Okay.
an impressionistic style, and I did that for probably 10 years, maybe more.
Yes.
I think I always kind of leaned towards Impressionism, but that's kind of changed now.
Okay. Changed to what, and any particular reason that motivated the change?
Well, about 3 years ago, I developed a neurological disorder. It's called myoclonus, and it just happened out of the blue, and we still don't know why or what's causing this. But it makes my hands tremor. Like if I put my hand up like this, you see it's starting to shake.
Yes.
And I walk a little funny. tend to lose my balance a little bit. And sometimes my brain doesn't function the way it should.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come up behind me, for example, and startle me, I'll jerk like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's involuntary, but it's part of that disorder.
Yeah.
So in a way, I kind of had to change my style
Yes.
because I could no longer paint the way I was painting before. But I was also ready to change my style.
Okay.
I had gotten tired with that style of painting. And I would look at the art magazines and the art books and so on. It's like, everybody's doing the same thing. And this is boring,
Yes.
you know, and I think art should be fun and exciting. I'm very passionate about it. So I wanted to change my style too. And as bad as the pandemic has been, it gave me an opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me some time off to step back and experiment and watch more YouTube videos and take some online courses from artists who I always had admired, but never had the chance to take a workshop with.
So that somewhat answers my question, because I was going to say, was it trial and error? You just following your own path, and if that didn't work, go. But it's kind of a combination, if I understand you right, combination of both. You maybe had a thought about what you wanted to do, and maybe you found it on YouTube or found it with somebody on an online course.
Right.
So it was successful. You were able to change your style, or it's still evolving,
And
I'm
it's
guessing.
still evolving. And I think for most artists, that's true. You don't, you know, most artists don't get stuck in one particular style for all of their life. They experiment and they grow, and their style evolves as that happens. And I hope it continues to.
I hope it does as well. So versus style, what about subject matter? Is there something that you gravitate to, or is there just whatever comes up? Portrait, still life, landscape, abstract? Any particular subject matter stick out?
I think I've always been drawn to the landscape. I've always enjoyed being outdoors. And for me, to be able to combine being outdoors with painting, combining those two passions, it's like, oh, this is great. This is what I want to do. So I think painting landscapes, painting florals and plants, and I think that comes from my horticulture background.
Of course.
Quite a
Yeah.
bit. Yes. Yeah. And every once in a while, I like to do portraits, and the figure drawing is something new.
Yes.
And I've been enjoying that group too.
Yes, and I know on the landscape, I've participated with you on some of that, because you gather people together, you get it started, you set a time, you set a place, and do what I guess we would call urban sketching or paint out. But I've been with you on one of those trips where Alden Bridge Park, and hey, you come, bring your own paints or drawing, or whatever you're going to do, and look around. You pick your own subject and paint.
Yeah.
And I think you did a portrait of me, actually, if you
did.
remember that. Huh?
I did. I still have that.
You said, I still have it. I think
In
I
fact,
put it on
that's gonna
Instagram.
that's in a show this month.
Okay, very good. But has that group, has that worked out like you planned it, the urban sketching group?
Yeah, it's worked out very well. And what we've done is we've combined two different disciplines of art. Plein air painting, which is where we do a full-blown painting outdoors from life, and urban sketching, which is more drawing, again from life. Not necessarily outdoors, though. It can also be indoors, for example, in a coffee shop.
Yes.
Or just your home. So we've combined those two disciplines we call it a paint out, sketch in. So if the weather's bad, we move indoors and do the urban sketching. And if the weather's good, we paint outside.
And I think I remember one of those as well. We did it at was it a coffee shop in the Woodlands, in Market Street?
Yeah,
Do you remember that one?
I think so,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think if there are rules with urban sketching, I know that's a national, well, actually it's an international organization.
Yes,
But the rule is it has to be from life. No photographs. It has to be from life. And if you can put people into it, even better. And I kind of took the easy way out because I remember that session that we did at the, let's say it was a coffee shop, and one of the artists there, I just started drawing her, and I said, well, that meets the requirement right here, and it turned out pretty good. So keep that up, because you're combining, I think, two groups, some members of the Woodlands Art League and then the Conroe Art League, to get them out. And I feel embarrassed I missed the last one, which is very close to my house. Like you, I live in the Woodlands, but I'm more on the west end. And I think you met right on 1488, where there's a lot of food trucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
We met at a food truck park, and that worked out really well because the food trucks are very colorful.
They are, yes.
Very colorful, and the people are, you get quite a mix of people there. And we were under a pavilion with lots of picnic tables and fans, and it was great.
Very good. Are we ready to begin to look at some of the art?
Sure.
Let's do that. And we can come back to some of the questions.
Okay. That sounds good.
But let's begin to look at some of the art, and I'll give you my impression first. Plants, horticulture, but what I like about this one, and I think, except for maybe one of these, I see the same for me, just the movement, the dynamism, just going through, it just moves to me, going up and out from the bottom and just intertwining. So tell us, Kathy, the title, the medium, was it from a photograph? Was it from real life? Was it from a still life arrangement, rather?
Yeah. This is, I call this Paisley Florals.
Okay.
And this is one of the paintings I did as a result of taking online workshops last year with Casey Klon. Casey is a master pastelist, and I learned a lot from him about using color in the same way that Matisse used color, where he would put down one color, and then the decision for the next color was what will work with this one, what will offset it or complement it. So that's how I painted this one, was one color at a time, and it's based on a still life. But the vase is different from the one that the flowers were actually in. And the background was actually based on one of my blouses.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's easy enough.
And that's something Matisse did as well. He bought a lot of textiles during his travels and used those as the background for his paintings. But I really was experimenting with playing on color. This was pastel. There was a lot of drawing involved in this one. And it was kind of a breakthrough piece for me because it was breaking away from the traditional impressionistic style and starting to really develop my own style, not necessarily Casey's style, but my style.
Yeah. And was it your intent to develop a style, or did it come about just organically by the way you were doing things that you found, I keep doing this, and this makes me comfortable? Or did you have, no, I want to draw this way, I want it to look a certain way, and I'm going to purposely develop a style?
I think kind of the latter.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to change my style because for me, art needs to come from the soul and from the heart. And it should be authentic to who you are as a person. And I, as a person, have grown and changed over the years. But I felt like my art hadn't changed with me. So I wanted to be more authentic in my artwork. And to me, this is more authentic. Okay.
And you answered the question, but I'll just contrast it with another artist I asked the same question. The colors, if I understood you right, Kathy, you're picking a color, and then the next color you're going to choose, you're looking at, well, do I want a complementary color? Do I want harmony, analogous, and so on? Versus, I want to express an emotion, a feeling, and I'm going to pick a color, regardless of if they go together or I'm not looking for, I'm looking for color to express something, or I'm looking for color to match the color scheme. Maybe, I don't know what word I'm trying to say, but does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. And there are artists who will pre-select their palette and decide these are the colors I'm going to use in this palette. And to some degree, I've done that as well. But in the painting we saw, I really wanted the color to play a key component in the artwork.
In the composition.
And in the composition, and use color in a different way from what I had been doing in the past.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Want to bring up the next one?
Okay.
Yeah, that one. Now you got me thinking Matisse, and I'm so maybe you said no, you're wrong, but I'm thinking now I can see some Matisse in there, and again I see that movement is going like a pendulum for me on this one back and forth. But again, the title and the medium and the inspiration for this one, Kath.
And this is called Calla Lilies, obviously, because those are the flowers being depicted. This is another pastel. So again, Casey Klon's influence here. And for this one, the vase again was a separate vase. And then I have a arrangement of calla lilies. And would pick this flower from the arrangement and put it over here, and pick that flower from the arrangement and put it over there. So I rearranged them on the painting itself.
Yes.
And then put that one down in front of the vase, just to really give the impression that this is all kind of floating in space. And I wanted it to be whimsical and fun and happy.
Yeah. And the lesson there that I'm hearing on that is you're creating your own reality. You're picking a flower, you're moving it, you're putting it where you want it, put it the color you want it, making it the painting you want it to be versus I'm painting what I see.
Exactly.
Well, maybe it's in your mind what you're seeing is what you're
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from my background in horticulture.
Yes.
Is when you're planting,
Yes.
you're not just thinking about how it looks today, but how's it going to look 10 years from now?
I like that. Yeah.
And you have to be able to envision that.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that has kind of crossed over into my artwork.
That's good. I like it. Yeah. Okay. And the third piece is again, and now I'm seeing movement, not symmetrical, but from opposing sides, maybe coming back up at the top, coming together. So the title and the medium for this one.
I think this is called Spring 2020. Which is when it was painted. And this is definitely moving into a more abstracted style now. And this was painted intuitively. So there are a lot of different layers on this painting. And if you take a close look, you'll see that there are many, many different colors here and many different layers. And that's one of the things that I am exploring now in my artwork is the whole concept of layers. Because that's how I see the landscape, that's how I see life, how I see people, is that there's what's far away on the surface, and then there's what's closer and closer and closer. And in a person, it's what's on the outside that we see every day. And then what do we see when we have a more close connection with that person? And what's deep inside that maybe they are not even aware of. So I'm looking at those layers, and that's kind of what this painting is based on. And I just allowed the painting to kind of take over and dictate what the next step would be.
That's good. And layers, now my first thought when you said layers was the idea of transparency, so that you would lay something down, another color on top of it, and have that show through. But then as you talked, it began to go to a different definition of it, because you said space, so layering to maybe in a way to do perspective. This is further back, this is bringing it closer. Or is it a combination of the two?
I think it's a combination, really, because if you take a closer look at the painting itself, you'll see that there's some background color peeping through, and there are some colors that are layered on top of a transparent color on top. And it's a very complex painting when you really look at it. And what's probably underneath all those layers, you don't see it.
Yes.
But it's part of the history of that painting.
Yes. And in the last interview, I had to reference to my contacts fail me, because I can't see all that detail here on here. But now I'm going to go back to the laptop and bring the image up and take a closer look at it. Okay, so very good on that one. And the final piece.
We have one more.
One more.
Ah, yes. Numa.
Yeah, yes,
Numa
it
is her name, and this was done
Yes.
during the figure drawing group. So
Exactly.
Of course, everybody else is drawing whole figures. I'm drawing a portrait, but this one, I think I really captured who Numa is
I think you did.
as a person, and I think this also shows some of that layering that we were talking about, where the paper itself is brown, and a lot of the paper is
Yes.
showing through here. This was made with graphite pencil, which is some of the lighter gray markings you see,
Uh-huh.
with carbon pencil, which gives us a really deep, rich
Deep.
black,
Yes.
and then white chalk for the highlights. So again, we're getting that layering.
And the paper, you put the color down on the paper, or did you buy the paper with that background on it?
That paper came in that color. So it's a Canson Ingress drawing paper. It's very similar to craft paper,
I like
but
that.
it's a little thinner. It has a nice tooth to it, so it grabs hold of the charcoal. And it's archival. So,
Oh.
200 years from now, this will look the same way.
Well, I like the way it looks. I like the contrast that it allows you, because you were able to bring back in the white for the highlight, which if you had been working on white paper, then maybe you couldn't have done it as
Yeah.
easily. You could have done it, but you'd have to have put, I guess, the face, made a color, whatever you wanted of the face, and then come back with the white. So that looked, and I'll do a plug as well about the figure drawing. Folks, if you want to come to that, it's not a class, but we do have a live model, and you're welcome to come, sit with us. Very, very informal, right?
Yes.
Bring your own medium. You can work in pencil and pastel, as Kathy does, or I sometimes will do charcoal or pastel pencil and so on. So work in the medium of your choice. Come, join us, live model, and it works very well. Well, those were some very good pieces, and I like the portrait at the end. I guess that really shows off your versatility, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I'm thinking, well, if you look at a flower, it's kind of a face in a way. Huh? You could get to that. Okay. When you work, I'm guessing I may have answered that, but I see a lot of flowers. Are there other themes that you work with that you might do a series of some other subject matter, or some other thought, or some other emotion, or ideas that you want to get across? Or
I think so. I'm doing more abstract work now. I did a series of paintings very similar to that third one that we saw.
Okay. Yes.
I call them my bubble paintings, because they all have those rounded shapes to them. And now I am being influenced by an artist in the UK. His name is Lewis Noble, and
Okay.
he abstracts the landscape. So he will go outdoors and do kind of an abstract painting based on what he's seeing outdoors, and then bring those in and play with them some more. And he's done some really unique pieces that way. So I'm trying to learn his concept and how he does that and incorporate that into my work. And as a matter of fact, I have a painting at the gallery right now.
right now. Okay.
That is based on his techniques.
I'm going to go back to the gallery
back
when
and
we
take a look.
finish, and I'm going to find that painting and take a look at it. Do you do commissions?
I don't usually do commissions. I'm fortunate that I've already had a successful career. I don't need to depend on making money. It's always nice when something sells, but I am able to paint what I want to paint.
I like that philosophy, because I've said it myself. Having retired, I don't want to ever do anything for money again. Doesn't mean I won't,
Right.
but I don't want to do it for money, because why? Because once somebody's paying you for something, they're going to dictate,
They're going to dictate.
what you want.
Exactly.
How long have you been a member of the Conroe Art League?
I think it's been about 8 or 10 years now.
Yes.
It's been a long time.
Okay. And you contribute, of course, by displaying in the Art League, and
Yes.
you do the urban sketching, the paint out, and so on. You've been involved with some of the figure group. Any other groups that you have been involved in?
Within the league? Or
Within the
else?
league?
Within the league, sometimes I will go to some of the other workshops that are being offered so that I can learn a new technique,
Okay.
a new medium. Some of them are just for play.
Yes,
For fun.
yes. You produce a lot of art, so where can people find your art? We know at the Art League, but where else can folks find your art?
I usually post on Facebook.
Okay,
I have my own personal Facebook page as well as Kathy Fediw Fine Art.
okay,
So you can find, if you don't want to read all the other stuff I post, and I don't blame you for that, you can just follow me on Kathy Fediw Fine Art.
okay.
And I also have a website, kathyfediw.com.
Kathy Fediw, and of course, folks, you can see it, Fediw, kathyfediw.com. So if you want to see Kathy's art, you've got more than one place to go find it. And to see Kathy's art at the Conroe Art League, as well as the art of many of the other artists of the Art League, please visit us at the Best Little Art Gallery in historic downtown Conroe. We're at 127 Simonton Street. We're open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please join us there where we live our creed, create, appreciate, and learn.